The replacement. On a cold and stormy night, Marina hurried through the deserted streets of the city. Her heart raced, not just from fear of the dark and unknown, but also from the anticipation of what awaited her at the laboratory where she worked. Today marked the culmination of a project that consumed years of her life, human cloning. Arriving at the lab, Marina was greeted by an unusual silence. The lights flickered erratically, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Must be the storm, she thought, trying to calm her nerves. At the center of the lab, the cloning tank emitted a soft glow. Inside, floated the figure of a man, perfectly identical to Alexander, Marina's colleague who had volunteered for the experiment. Checking the clone's vital signs, Marina felt a mix of euphoria and terror. The procedure was a success, but what did that mean for humanity? She didn't have much time to ponder, as a shadow loomed behind her. "Marina," a voice called, causing her to jump in fright. It was Alexander, or at least, it appeared to be. "How did you get out of the tank?" she asked, confused and scared. "I wasn't in the tank, Marina. I just got here," he replied, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. There was something odd about his voice, a coldness Marina had never noticed before. In the following days, Marina began to notice small differences in Alexander. He seemed more distant, his reactions were sometimes off, and there were moments when she swore she saw an inhuman glint in his eyes. Trying to convince herself she was just imagining things, Marina continued her work. However, the doubt persisted, eating away at her peace of mind. What if the clone had somehow replaced the real Alexander? Determined to uncover the truth, Marina began to investigate. She reviewed the security recordings of the lab on the night of the procedure, and what she saw chilled her to the bone. The footage showed Alexander entering the lab during the storm, but there was no record of him leaving. Instead, the camera captured the moment the clone opened his eyes for the first time, and the expression on its face was not one of confusion, but of purpose. Marina confronted the clone with her findings, but he just laughed. "Do you really think you can prove anything?" he scoffed, with a smile that froze her blood. Terrified, Marina knew she needed help. She sought out her colleagues, but everyone seemed skeptical or, worse, as if they were already under the clone's influence. Deep down, she knew the only way to expose the truth would be to find the real Alexander, if he was still alive. Armed with determination and a dose of desperation, Marina began her search. She scoured every corner of the lab, and eventually, her investigations led her to a restricted sector, to which only Alexander had access. There, she discovered a journal. The entries revealed that Alexander knew the risks of the experiment. He feared his clone could develop its own consciousness, warped and potentially malevolent. Armed with this new information, Marina decided to confront the clone again. But when she returned to the lab, he was waiting for her. "You shouldn't have meddled, Marina," he said, his voice as cold as ice. "But now that you know too much, I can't let you go." The battle that ensued was both physical and mental. Marina fought with everything she had, but the clone seemed to anticipate her every move, countering with terrifying precision. In a moment of desperation, Marina managed to trap the clone in a containment unit used for hazardous biological samples. She activated the lock, sealing him inside. With the clone contained, Marina hurried to find evidence of Alexander's fate. She combed through the lab's records, desperate for any clue. Her search led her to a hidden chamber within the lab, a place she had never known existed. Inside, she found Alexander, alive but in a state of deep cryogenic sleep. Relieved and horrified in equal measure, Marina worked to revive Alexander. The process was delicate and fraught with danger, but she proceeded with a steady hand. As Alexander slowly awakened, Marina explained everything that had happened. The horror and disbelief in his eyes mirrored her own feelings. Together, they confronted the ethical and moral implications of their work. The creation of the clone, while a scientific breakthrough, had unleashed a Pandora's box of ethical dilemmas. They decided that the clone, despite his actions, deserved a chance at life, but not at the cost of others' freedom. They began to devise a plan to rehabilitate him, to teach him humanity. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Marina and Alexander worked tirelessly, not only on their research but also on the rehabilitation of the clone, whom they started to call Alex to differentiate him from Alexander. The process was slow and fraught with challenges, as Alex struggled to understand emotions, empathy, and the value of human life. During this time, the lab became a place of intense debate and philosophical discussions about identity, consciousness, and the essence of being human. Marina found herself at the center of these discussions, advocating for compassion and understanding towards Alex. Slowly, Alex began to show signs of change. He asked questions about love, sorrow, and joy. He began to express remorse for his initial actions, a development that both surprised and encouraged Marina and Alexander. One evening, as they sat together reviewing the day's progress, Alex asked a poignant question: what does it mean to be human? This led to a deep and reflective conversation, where Marina and Alexander shared their thoughts on humanity's complexities and contradictions. As the months passed, Alex became more like a new person rather than a clone. He developed his own interests, opinions, and even a sense of humor. Marina and Alexander watched this transformation with a mixture of pride and wonder. Eventually, the trio decided it was time to address the legal and ethical ramifications of their work. They prepared a detailed report of their experiment, including the procedures, the unforeseen outcome, and their efforts at rehabilitation. The report sparked a global debate. Some hailed it as a milestone in genetic science and ethics, while others condemned it as a dangerous precedent. Through it all, Marina, Alexander, and Alex remained united, ready to face the consequences of their actions together. In a stark turn of events, the international community, swayed by fear and a cascade of ethical concerns, reached a unanimous decision that sent shockwaves through the scientific world. The clone, now known as Alex, was to be completely destroyed, down to his DNA, and human cloning was to be banned forever. This drastic measure was fueled by a growing belief that cloning posed an insurmountable threat to humanity's moral and ethical fabric, a Pandora's box that, once opened, could never be closed again. The night before the execution of the order, the facility where Alex was being held turned into a scene of chaos and violence. Alex, in a desperate bid for freedom, managed to escape, leaving behind a trail of destruction. In his wake, 3 guards lay dead, and 13 others sustained serious injuries. The facility, once a beacon of scientific progress, now stood as a grim reminder of the potential dangers of tampering with the very essence of life. The news of Alex's escape and the violent manner in which it occurred only fueled the global outcry against cloning, cementing the decision to outlaw the practice indefinitely. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the world held its breath, waiting for any news of Alex's whereabouts. But he had vanished without a trace, becoming a ghost, a specter that haunted the collective conscience of humanity. Despite the exhaustive efforts to track him down, Alex was never found. To this day, whispers of his possible return circulate among the scientific community, tinged with a mix of fear and fascination. The possibility of his seeking vengeance for the actions taken against him hangs like a shadow over those who were once his creators and would-be destroyers. His disappearance has become a haunting legacy, a specter that looms over the field of genetic research, serving as a constant reminder of the unpredictable nature of playing God with the building blocks of life. Dare to venture into the unknown. Join us on a journey where shadows whisper and secrets lurk. Subscribe now and ring the bell to summon fresh mysteries directly to your screen every few days. Ignore this call, and be warned, an eternal curse awaits those who wander in the dark, unguided. Do you have the courage to face the unknown? Your adventure begins with a click. Welcome to the realm where every notification brings you closer to the abyss. Subscribe, if you dare,